Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Before we go any further, I want you to pause with me for a moment. Notice your shoulders. Feel the way they've been sitting all day, maybe higher than they should be, bracing against the weight of expectations you didn't ask for. Notice your breath. Has it been shallow? Has it been hurried? Has your body been holding on as if it needed to defend you from a world that demands pieces of you it did not earn? Let your chest rise. Let it fall. Let yourself soften into this moment. Because here is the truth you came for today. You are not difficult. You are discerning. The difference is sacred. And the reason so many people feel like static against your skin, like their presence scratches instead of soothes, is not because something is wrong with you. It is because God has tuned you to a frequency that most of the world does not yet carry. Picture it like this. Imagine a perfectly tuned piano placed beside a crowd of instruments that have not been tuned in years. When the piano plays, it doesn't sound wrong. It sounds pure, but its purity reveals the noise around it. That's what your spirit does in this world. Nothing about you is broken, but your very presence highlights dissonance. And so you will not chase after the wrong song. Your spirit refuses to join what does not align. You may have wondered for years why certain conversations left you feeling heavier than before they began. Why did your chest tighten in certain places when nothing obvious was wrong? Why did you often need to step outside just to take a deep breath of air after being in a room full of people? Your body has been a faithful messenger. It has been whispering what your soul already knows. Your energy is sacred, and heaven has been guarding it. Some of you have misunderstood that guarding. Some of you have learned to call it loneliness. Some of you have tried to drag yourselves back into circles that dimmed your light, hoping endurance would count as a virtue. But endurance without discernment is not strength, it is erosion. And you, chosen one, were never created to erode. There is a pattern God follows with those he entrusts with true weight. Before he expands your reach, he narrows your circle. Before he reveals your mission, he refines your spirit. Before he sends you into the noise of the world, he trains your ears to hear the still, steady whisper of his voice. That narrowing, that refining often feels painful. It feels like loss, like rejection, like delay, like being passed over. But in truth, it is heaven placing velvet ropes around what is rare, what is precious, what cannot be contaminated. Take another breath here. Feel the way your body softens when you hear these words. It's not that people are bad. It's simply that your assignment is exact. Precision requires atmosphere. Oil does not mix with water, not because water is wrong, but because the formula is different. And your calling has a formula of its own. Think back for a moment. Remember the places you left behind but couldn't explain why. The job that looked perfect on paper, yet made your lungs feel tight every morning. The friend group that adored a version of you who had to shrink in order to fit. The relationships where everything looked fine from the outside, yet your soul went quiet, dimming itself to survive the conversation. Heaven was editing your life. Heaven was rearranging the lighting on your stage. I need you to hear this with your entire being. Sensitivity is not fragility. Sensitivity is an instrument, finely tuned. It is a gift, not a flaw. It is night vision in a world that prefers to blind itself with fluorescent distractions. It is the ability to feel what others overlook, to sense the undercurrent beneath the surface. It allows you to read a room without a single word spoken. Yes, it means you will sometimes leave early. Yes, it means you will disappoint people who wanted easy access to you. But access is not love. Alignment is. Crowds don't just take your time, they tax your clarity. Too many voices create fog, and fog makes you second-guess the truth you already knew deep inside. And that doubt is costly. It steals mornings when you could have woken with certainty and nights when you could have rested in peace. So the God who knows your margins better than you do has been protecting them all along. The closed doors you mourned were not rejections. They were recalibrations. The slow season you hated was not punishment. It was a clean room, a holy space where heaven was sterilizing your purpose from contamination, stripping away projections, opinions, envies, and expectations that never belonged to you in the first place. And this blueprint inside you, this sacred design, it keeps pulling you towards stillness. Have you noticed how your clearest directions come in quiet places? On evening walks, in the car when everyone else has stepped out, in the shower when the day finally releases its grip. In those moments, something within you rearranges, as if your spirit is moving furniture around to prepare for what's next. That's not your imagination. That is your command center activating. That is your soul aligning itself with heaven's signal. Here's what truly happens when you stay around too many people for too long. Your spirit begins scanning the atmosphere. You notice micro-expressions. You catch motives unspoken. You absorb grief that has no outlet. You hear the subtle angle in a compliment that carried a sting. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. And after a while, your inner circuitry overheats. You think you're being antisocial, but really, you are a lighthouse trying to run through a thunderstorm, with every ship flashing its SOS in your direction. Lighthouses were never meant to sprint. They were meant to stand, to shine, and to let the ships adjust to their light. And so I want to release you from an old lie. The lie that says, if I were stronger, I could handle everyone. Strength is not measured by how many people you can carry, how many voices you can tolerate, or how much noise you can absorb. Strength is knowing what is yours to hold and what is not. It is knowing that your clarity, your light, and your energy are treasures worth protecting. Strength, my dear friend, is not just about how much weight you can carry or how loudly you can declare your truth. True strength is quiet and discerning. It is knowing when to remain and when to rise. It is the deep awareness that some tables, no matter how welcoming they appear on the surface, slowly dilute the very essence of your anointing. Real strength is in your ability to notice this and to walk away, not in anger, not in bitterness, not with a need to justify or defend, but kindly, gracefully, with a clean spirit, and without the need to give a speech. Your life, you see, has never been running on the same clock as the world around you. While others rush, compare, and chase, you are being guided by a rhythm that belongs to something far greater. Divine timing is not measured in seconds or years the way humans calculate time. To impatient eyes, divine timing looks like delay, like nothing is happening. But to eyes that have been trained by spirit, it is perfect choreography. What seems like pauses are actually sacred placements. What feels like silence is not absence, but a divine signal check. And those sudden endings you didn't plan for, they were rehearsals for your growth. Fire drills teaching you where the true exits were long before the flames arrived. Each time you listened to that nudge, that whisper telling you to leave early, heaven recorded it as proof of your stewardship, as evidence that you honored wisdom over convenience. So let me offer you a new way to see yourself. You are not bad with people. You are excellent with purpose. You are not closed off. You are curated. And that word matters, because curation is not a sign of fear. It is the mark of value. Museums do not display every piece of art they find. They carefully protect, preserve, and reveal only what is priceless. That is what you are doing with your life, even when others don't understand. Let's lean even closer, because here lies the deeper truth. Every time you were pulled away from the crowd, every moment you felt more distant than included, it was never about rejection. It was always about refinement. You have noticed it in your own body. After gatherings, even harmless ones, you don't just leave feeling tired. You leave altered, carrying energies that do not belong to you. Something invisible lingers. The heaviness people never spoke aloud, the envy that hid beneath their compliments, the sorrow that hid behind their laughter. These things cling to you because your spirit is porous, sensitive, deeply receptive. And while the world may call it oversensitivity, heaven calls it discernment. You are not broken for feeling deeply. You are wired this way by design. You have been entrusted with an inner alarm system that rings when something is not aligned. This is why God has been so intentional with your placement. This is why doors closed without explanation, why conversations that once flowed suddenly dried up, why people who once fit into your life began to fall away. Every separation, even the ones that felt sharp and painful, was a form of cleansing, a recalibration for your path. Because your assignment cannot survive constant contamination. Think of it like a A flame surrounded by too much wind does not grow brighter. It flickers until it dies. But a flame protected, cupped gently in the right environment, becomes fire, strong enough to withstand any storm. This is what God has been doing with you, shielding your light, protecting your spark until it is strong enough to shine in any weather. And now, it explains why certain rooms feel heavy to you. You don't need to hear the words to know when gossip is in the air. You don't need someone to admit jealousy for you to feel it pressing against your chest. Your spirit has become fluent in languages that most people have never learned. When your frequency collides with another's, you feel the dissonance without explanation. Oil and water do not hate each other, yet they were never created to mix. That is how your spirit responds to certain environments. You've tried to explain this to others, haven't you? And they've told you that you're being too dramatic, too guarded, too picky. But here's the truth. What they call picky, heaven calls precise. What they see as distance is not rejection, it is preservation. Because not everyone has the ability or the maturity to sit close to the soundboard of your soul. And yes, you've wrestled with this. You've had nights when you asked yourself, am I isolating myself? Am I sabotaging my own connections? But every time you sat in the quiet, the answer came like a whisper. In solitude, your vision sharpens. Your creativity reawakens. Your spirit exhales. That peace has always been the proof. Loneliness may scratch at you at times, but solitude strengthens you. And you, more than anyone, know the difference between the two. The truth is, the more awake you become, the more separation becomes inevitable. It's not that you've become less relatable or less loving. It's that your frequency has been raised, purified, refined, and the gap between your energy and the world's distractions has widened. Purity, by its very nature, cannot mix with chaos without cost. So instead of asking yourself, why can't I be around too many people? Begin asking, why has God chosen to shield me from them? That one shift in perspective changes everything. If you had remained in those circles, your spirit would have been dulled by their noise. And dulled spirits do not carry the fire to break curses. Dull spirits cannot awaken others. That is why God has hidden you. Remember, before God reveals his chosen ones, he always hides them. Think of Moses in the desert, David in the fields, Jesus in the wilderness. What feels like isolation is actually the oldest and most sacred pattern of preparation. The wilderness is where leaders are carved, where vessels are cleansed, where voices are tuned to heaven's frequency. And that is the path you have been walking. Every time you thought life was passing you by, heaven was pulling you aside. Not because you couldn't handle people, but because they couldn't yet handle what you carry. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the very evidence that your spirit is alive. It is the radar that warns you of storms before they arrive. It is the compass that leads you back to stillness when the world tries to pull you off course. There will be seasons in your life when you feel the pull to step away from the noise, when your soul quietly urges you to wander from the crowds and drift from the places that no longer feel aligned. And yes, it will cost you something. It will cost you the crowded rooms that once made you feel like you were a part of something bigger. It will cost you the shallow sense of belonging that only works when you hide pieces of yourself. It will cost you the illusion that proximity equals connection. But what you gain in exchange is worth far more than what you release. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain a steady, unshakable alignment with the voice of God that grows louder the quieter the world becomes around you. The next time you feel the heaviness pressing down on your chest in a room full of people, I want you to remember this. It is not weakness. That feeling is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is discernment. It is your spirit whispering that the atmosphere around you is not meant for the fullness of who you are. And when you notice yourself pulling back, drifting away from gatherings, or choosing silence instead of noise, remind yourself of this truth. You are not retreating, you are realigning. You are coming back to center, stepping back into the rhythm of your Creator rather than forcing yourself into the pace of a world that cannot see you clearly. And when someone questions you, when they wonder why you no longer show up the way you used to, remember this: you were never meant to shrink yourself just to be given access. You were never designed to water down your essence so that others could tolerate your presence. You were crafted with intention, set apart to carry something holy, and it was always meant to be preserved, not diluted. You are not withdrawing from life, you are being prepared for impact. For those who are chosen, the path does not look wide. The circle will be smaller. The road will be narrower. The company will often feel limited. But the impact, when the moment comes, will stretch beyond what you can currently imagine. Because God never hides treasures with the intent of wasting them. He hides them with precision, covering them until the appointed time, until the exact moment when the world is finally ready to receive the brilliance they carry. And when your unveiling comes, you will no longer waste yourself in rooms that drain you. You will no longer pour into places that cannot hold what you give. Instead, you will be ushered into the right spaces, where your sensitivity will no longer be seen as fragility, but as a gift, where your presence will not feel overwhelming, but will be received as the very thing that was missing. Until then, learn to trust the velvet ropes. Learn to trust the edits, the pauses, the no's that felt like rejection but were in truth protection. Heaven knows the weight you have been carrying, and heaven has been shielding you. Shielding not to cut you off from life, but to guard you for the life that has already been written with your name in it. Shielding you so that when your appointed hour comes, you are whole, not worn out. Preserved, not depleted. You are not antisocial, even if the world has tried to call you that. You are anointed. You are not cold or closed off, though some may misunderstand your stillness. You are consecrated. And that sacred separation is exactly why not everyone can walk beside you, why not everyone can stay close to your spirit. It is not rejection. It is reverence. It is heaven's way of setting boundaries around the vessel that carries God's presence. And before we close, I want to share something from my heart. Outside of these messages, I have been creating music, a second channel I've called Simplified Serenity. It is a space filled with soaking worship instrumentals, sounds designed to draw you deeper into stillness, prayer, and rest. If what you have received here today brought you peace, I invite you to carry that peace further into your own quiet time with God. Let it wash over you in the hidden hours, when you need the gentle reminder of His nearness. The link is waiting for you in the description, and I would love to see you there, joining me in those moments of sound and silence.